afternoon. My name is Karen. Welcome to this symposium. In this virtual symposium, we are going to talk about some architectural topics that is important to consider as architects. Today we have the experts in the file, David Mendoza, David Rojas, Daniela Peralta, and Axel Escutia. Now we are going to start with the architect Daniel Mendoza. He is going to talk about landscape architecture. We have heard that term, but some of you are not clear about what it refers to. David, could you tell us about it?
Hello, my name is David Mendoza, and we'll talk to you about landscape architecture. Landscape architecture and discipline that responsible for the planning, design, and construct of outdoor space to building landscape. The landscape architect plans, design, building, and manages open space of as parts. The natural and human system, from a responsible, exclusive, and disciplined perspective in environment, social and cultural themes, inherent materials and elements of natural wind, vegetation, water, whose is interconstruct with private considerations of physical, mental, and emotion comfort. Some types of projects that exemplify the works of landscape architecture are following: school campus, outdoors, public garden, urban parks, own orders. On one of the architects who has designed the landscape architecture is the Mexican Alberto Calach. Proof of this in the restoration works of the Barragan Garden in 2017 were respect for the vegetations and the approach of the rester base of garden artist's most urban qualities. That goods are inherent while speaking of less space or architecture. Thank you.
Okay. Do you think that landscaping is known enough, or is there some confusion about it?
There is still some confusion and since no use because the projects has vegetation, wild, um, um, consing with the landscaping. Any other questions?
Yes. In your opinion, how important are sustainable criteria in the conception of a project, like the little consumption of water or light, choice of some plant species or others?
It is too important since implementing in the landscape project helps us to plan, design, and manage projects that used for society. And thanks you for your attention.
Thank you very much for your information, David. I think that it's very important to understand this type of architecture and apply it. Now, the architect David Rojas is going to provide us information about sustainable architecture, this topic that has become very important. David, tell us why is sustainable architecture so important?
Hi, I'm David, and I'll talk about sustainable architect. Sustainable architect arises as a way of conceiving architectural design in a sustainable way, seeking to minimize the environmental impact of buildings on environ- environment and community. The sustainable architect tries to reduce the energy consumption, that is to minimize the ecological footprint of the buildings. When passive power systems are designed, electrical power consumption is reduced. This is on the of the case of sustainable. The present is very important for architects to contribute to the construction of buildings and bridges and roads, but doing so while preserving the environment and taking into account the sustainability of construction. The sustainability has to do with a new way of living and acting in the world, thinking of the both the present and the future. The sustainable development aims to warrant the entire population decent quality of life, uh, guarantee the management of natural resources with strict respect for the recharge capacities of the ecosystems and ecological balance, um, not only of the present but also of the future. Thank you.
Okay, now I'm going to do some questions. Um, what benefits does sustainable architecture bring to the environment and the community?
The sustainable architect offers several benefits, uh, decreases in expenses energy, saving due to the adequate lighting and air conditioning, includes reward systems, uh, environmental care, uses of the
Okay,
construction materials that have eco-friendly ma- manufacturing process. They also offer a long service life, maximizes comfort.
okay. Now, why is sustainable architecture not developed enough?
The sustainable architect is not developed much. It is designed, but for years sustainable elements have been handled within buildings, such as social panels, solar heaters, use less technology, among others.
Okay, thank you very much for your information. It's clear that sustainable architecture is important to guarantee to the development of citizens. Um, Talking about the the sustainable architecture, it's important to consider sustainable materials. Architect Axel, could you talk about your knowledge of sustainable materials, please?
Yes, Karen. When we're talking about the sustainable materials, we can refer to two trends.
the return to construction materials at the first organic, or the use of materials with event-grade technologies. In the case of the organic materials, we return to the most simple, such as a wood, clay, or cork, because they have a certain benefits such as a begin at thermal materials or with a lower environmental impact. But on the other hand, we have avant-garde materials, tiles or synthetic bricks made to recycle plastics than which have to have a useful life up to 50 years, or elements of construction at a basic with a new adaptation such as a resins and a self-preparing concrete, then he can generate a chemical reaction to create to solidificate an insolution limestone. The use of nanotechnology could also greatly improve the efficient solar panels, making it possible to embed a single panel with a large variety of individual solar cells. They will greatly reduce the cost of technology and ultimately make solar energy unavailable to alternatives to fossil fuels. Or your visit of to sustainability will depend a lot of the scale than we want to build a project. Because before we start to think about sustainable materials, we must have a project that already exists.
Okay, I have some questions. Do you use only recyclable materials or can you use others?
Not necessary. When we refer to sustainable materials, we have a typical and traditional materials or the new materials to speak for which in both cases we can recycle them or create them through recycling. It's not necessary to classify it in one of them.
Okay, thank you. Uh, the materials with which sustainable architecture is made can affect the health.
I could assure you that for the new innovation materials, they are exposed to a multiple scientific study, as well as a quality test, which ensure that they are safe for human use.
Okay, thank you. I think that with the help of these materials, architects could increase the degree of sustainability in their buildings. Thank you very much for your participation, Axel. And finally, we have the participation of the architect Daniela, who is going to talk about interior design. Daniela, could you share something important with us?
Yes, of course. Well, interior design is, from my point of view, one of the aspects of architecture that we should pay the most attention to because a poorly thought out project will affect the lives of many people constantly and for a long time. I think there are 5 design principles to keep in mind when starting to decorate which are balance, read, harmony, emphasis, and proportion. And the main elements of interior design are lines, shapes, textures, colors, space, as well as furniture and lighting. One of the most important exponents of interior design in Mexico is Lorena Vieira. She has worked on approximately 50 residential, corporate, industrial plants, and hotel projects in Mexico and the United States. For her, it is essential to experiment with the raw material provided by each project in order to get the most out of it. Her favorite materials are stone and wood. In addition to this, she likes to use different elements such as lattice that allow light to filter in and give the feeling of integrity in the spaces at the same time that they separate them. She has multiple accolades and in 2017 she was named Interior Designer of the Year. Thank you.
I have some questions for you. What does good
Yes.
design mean to you?
For me, good design is when you manage to create a pleasant experience throughout your work that fills you with positive feelings and makes you want to be there in a way that gives you a feeling of satisfaction, comfort, and peace.
Okay. Do you consider that interior design is important?
Yes, if as I said before, interior design is one of the most important aspects in architecture since it positively or negatively influences people's feelings, colors, shapes, textures. Everything has a direct influence.
Okay. Thank you very much for your participation. Today, interior design has taken on more importance in order to create adequate spaces, and it's important to consider this. And this is all for today. I appreciate everyone's participation. See you soon.
See you.